Minister, as you're aware, and as we're all aware, the ESB unions have served strike notice since last Friday, and it's due to expire on Sunday week. And we understand there's a wide gulf, to quote a phrase, between the ESB management and the ESB unions in relation to the pension fund. If you look at this morning's Irish Independent, it has outlined some of the so-called contingency plans that are being put in place by public bodies and by state companies, as well as private companies around the country in advance of this. And if this action is allowed to go ahead or proceeds, it will have a very detrimental effect on every citizen in the country, on business at their busiest time of the year. For business, this is a couple of weeks that will be the difference between opening or closing the doors after Christmas and keeping people in employment. It will have a huge effect on our transport utilities in the run into Christmas and on so many operations. So we want to know, Minister, given that the clock is ticking, given that there has been no progress in the talks to date, what action has the government taken, or is it taking any action apart from a monitoring situation? Is there any intention to involve the labour relations mechanisms of the state to stop this from happening? So by the time the House convenes again next Tuesday, this will be 5 days away. And people need to know where they stand. Businesses need to know where they stand. People who are making plans for Christmas need to know where they stand, and there needs to be a certainty brought to the situation and an understanding that government are on top of this situation so that people can get that understanding.
Minister.
Thank you. Councillor, last Friday the ESB group of unions served notice of intention to hold industrial action starting on the 16th of December. However, the ESB Executive Director team and the unions continue to meet under the company's established procedures for dealing with industrial relations issues. At this point, there is ongoing dialogue between the parties, and while that process continues, I believe it would be inappropriate to make further comment. However, the Department of Communications, Energy and Natural Resources will remain in ongoing contact with the company on the situation, and the Government will be kept informed. Deputy, the Government is acutely aware of the seriousness of this situation. We hope that, notwithstanding service of notice on the company last Friday, ESB and the unions will work together to resolve the various issues through direct discussions within the framework of well-established procedures. The ESB, in cooperation with EirGrid, has a robust contingency plan in place in the event of industrial action taking place. There is ongoing proactive engagement between EirGrid, ESB and the energy regulator to ensure that, if there is industrial action, appropriate and coordinated mitigation measures are taken to safeguard security of supply. There is a joint obligation on the company and the unions to have in place agreed contingency plans and other arrangements to deal with any emergency which may arise during an industrial dispute, including the provision of emergency services required on humanitarian grounds and all matters concerning health, safety and security, including that of plant and equipment. In relation to the pension scheme, my understanding is that the measures adopted under the agreement between the ESB and the unions in 2010 have had a positive effect, with the scheme actuary reporting that the scheme is now in balance on an ongoing actuarial basis.
Deputy Calleary.
Minister, to add to that, the Pension Board have confirmed that the scheme is on track, will be in surplus by 2018. Minister Rabbitte has said that there is no risk to the pension scheme and that employees that are retiring between now and 2018 will receive their full entitlements. However, and I welcome the fact that there's ongoing negotiations. At what stage do the government intend to knock heads together and ask for an assurance and that these negotiations are going somewhere? That there won't be the kind of disruption, because the contingency plan will involve power outages. The contingency plan, as outlined, cannot guarantee to citizens that there will not be a power outage 10 days out from Christmas. So at what stage is the government going to say, all right, you have done your best, you're not getting anywhere, we're going to intervene with the labour relations mechanism? Are you just going to allow it to drag to the very last minute and not give any certainty to people, to business people, in this very important 2 weeks?
I think the Deputy, from his own experience in the Department of now known as Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation, which has responsibility for the machinery of industrial relations, that the Government has at its disposal an array of instruments, an array of institutions that can be mobilised at the appropriate time. We're of the view, and this is the view of the Minister directly concerned, Minister Pat Rabbitte, that at this point in time, ongoing discussions between both parties is happening, and it would be inappropriate to make any measure or to take any action outside those talks until such time as there are further developments. And if an intervention is required, then that will be considered in due course. But I think, Deputy, and I share your concern, I think everybody in this House shares the concern of disruption of supply at this time of the year to begin with, and particularly coming up to the Christmas period. But we hope that one of the factors that gave rise to this unease is the position of the pension fund, and you've already concurred with my own observation in that regard. So hopefully the talks will produce a positive, constructive settlement. But if an intervention is requested or required, then the machinery for that intervention is available.
Thank you. Deputy Doherty, on behalf of Sinn Féin.
Dógar and Commissioner Changa, Sian O'Corran, Goilse Agiri as Hodge Dulgasi, and Ye Jamie and the Fast. Agus are Sean Kit where a year is stats in the Chira and stare in the Chira Shaw, Goriri Danya again level Shaw, as a Hodge Kurumi and Doy Shaw. The announcement yesterday by the Language Commissioner that he could no longer continue in his role due to the lack of commitment from state organisation is a damning indictment of government's policy on the Irish language. Hug shall a fis, don coste vishek frastal, go will tree charu than the scheme on the changa, at the on la hagriak the exul estate as fime. Yerisha emni war, fui kaijan, kajwai alaku. Agus Jersha Gashilim Gashohan what is Tawak the Adurcha, na Jersha go will ogle go will edit doher janta agus aspa munya, so horis nar fager a harhal anish. Hug shall a Tishkin na will yerak Murishgarta Yenu, Shervishi state in Gaelic, a horror foil that here in the Chira. Hyper policy archiarchs is state Shervish, like Kenchu Gurugulor Gaelic, a Gabriel on Frastal or Football, na Gaeltarte is Gaelic and Murishgart, and rather run Shibshin na Deriship na Realaha, August Darlish, Nialbala or B, Ganebrahai and Chorus Nua. Nyakasha and the Martria Bien and the Ishlebri. Agus log vishni are. So are and walking to goal and cart again ombudsman adiri as in ye Sian O'Corran.
Thank you, Councillor. My attention has been brought to the decision, the announcement by the Commissioner to resign with effect from, I think it's the 23rd of February next. My attention has also been brought to the comments that he has made in relation to the status of the Irish language and the current attitude of this government to implement its strategy. I've been assured by my colleague here beside me, the Minister with direct responsibility, Minister of State McGinley, that these matters are not accepted, the criticisms are not accepted by the Commissioner, and that in due course, when his resignation takes effect, a new Commissioner will be appointed.
Well, Goal Shifik Kenyu and Major Vila Retic and Commissioner Changa. Mar Hogsha Sunry into Sawyer than Cohochte, Guru Tri Chahu than the Hagrishi State, Guru a Planana as Vime, Agus and Ring Agus Anare, at an Kuramishan, Kenji Yenu go on the Planana in Shin. And Commissioner of the Torch and all the show, Dotty Narratis Enye. Agus Boston Doger Shabara, Afranu, Arap the Chang, Offical Yev Yanyahan, Agus near Harley and Rod Foss. Tisha Blahishlu Stada Horton Commissioner, Konasku Ayenu, La Offic and Ombudsman. The Commissioner had to take an unprecedented step yesterday, Minister, from resigning because this government is totally undermining the work that he is doing. State organisations, and this is what he told the committee, state organisations are ignoring their legal obligations, and in 2.5 years in office, your government has done untold damage to the provisions of services and the supports of the Irish language speakers throughout the state. So, Minister, an Anhian too, Gerbshaw and Realtis is free really, agus is massive don changa of his state shaw a year, agus an Anhian too. Gagahiship erhau tro beogab, Motamage la hort at an finisher a hogan Commissioner Changa and ye, agus Hilsha gro ega and fosta egal, na rosha a judgel in rother yenu for the shaw, san yev yenavi kachiga, Marial or andoy at agrisi stage, agus and realtis egdelal le keshna gaelicus in cheershaw.
Minister.
I thank the Deputy for his comments, but I don't accept what you have said in relation to the attitude of this government towards the language. If you wish to have a debate on the matter with the Minister here beside me, either an adjournment debate or to have the matter raised for a comprehensive discussion on this matter, where all of the claims made by the Commissioner can be responded to by the Minister of State, McGinley, then that is a possibility that's open to you if you wish to avail of it.
Thank you. Deputy Joan Collins, on behalf of the
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, I want to refer to a question which has been asked twice on two occasions, once to the Taoiseach and once to the Taoiseach, by my colleague Seamus Healy in the last 2 weeks. On neither occasion has he received a reply which actually dealt with the question he raised. And before you reply, Minister, I want to make it clear that I and the 30,000 families who are affected by this are well aware that the Government has established the Insolvency Service. We are well aware that new legislation in relation to bankruptcy has been enacted, and we are also well aware of the Central Bank's mortgage arrears resolution process. Simply listing off these points by rote is not an answer to the very specific question I want to raise. And this is in relation to householders who do not have sufficient income to pay their existing mortgages. They are unable to come to an agreement for reduced payments, split mortgage to rent with their lenders. They do not have sufficient income to avail of the options from the insolvency services, and they cannot access bankruptcy and keep their home. Up to 30,000 families are in this situation. They face eviction. Can you, Minister, spell out your government's policy for a clear political and financial solution to these people, apart from the waffle about the government's priority to keep these people in their homes?
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Ceann Comhairle, the Deputy has referred to a question that she feels she has not received an answer to. I'll try and get a copy of that particular question, the question put by Deputy Seamus Healy. But let me just give you the note that I have here in relation to this matter. The Government have put in place a comprehensive programme of actions to assist householders struggling to pay their mortgages. We have rebalanced the rights of borrowers and lenders under the biggest shake-up of personal insolvency law in a century, and we have given those who bought their first homes during the bubble significant increases in mortgage interest relief. All the tools are now in place to accelerate the workout of the mortgage crisis. Banks and borrowers now need to use these tools to reach fair and sustainable solutions to mortgage arrears on a case-by-case basis. We cannot allow the economic recovery to bypass families in mortgage arrears. We cannot leave 100,000 families in limbo because they have no certainty about their future financial situation. There is a solution and process available to people who cannot pay their mortgages. Engagement between consumers and lenders has already led to 45,177 permanent mortgage restructures up to the end of September, an increase of 3,900 on the August data. Encouragingly, the total mortgage accounts in arrears has fallen by 2,316 accounts to just over 118,000 accounts. The number of mortgage accounts in arrears of greater than 90 days has fallen by 1,468 accounts, down from 82,624 to 81,156. Term extensions and arrears capitalisations are the dominant permanent restructure type, comprising about 60% of total restructures. There has also been an increase in the number of split mortgages to 3,688 from 2,521 at the end of August. The next data up to the end of October will be released on the 12th of December. The Central Bank have now set clear targets for the banks to deal with distressed borrowers, requiring them to offer sustainable solutions by the end of next year at the latest.
Minister, I appealed at this point in my question not to, for you to list off these points by rote, and that's exactly what you've done. You haven't said clearly what this government are going to do to solve the problems of the 30,000 families who cannot access the insolvency services. I thought it might have been third time lucky here today that you might have got an answer from the government. I have an example here of a family who, whose income is just over the insolvency service basic living needs. They have €80 excess income after a month after that's been taken into account. Now, the bill for the PIP to that family is a total cost of employing the PIP for entering the debt settlement arrangement is €6,888 with a €1,230 upfront payment. That's the demand made by the PIP to that family. They cannot afford to go into that insolvency service arrangement. Many families don't even have that extra €80. They're actually on the line, the living allowance line, and they can't access it. What is your government going to do for these people? Isn't it a reality your government has created a bankruptcy regime and insolvency legislation for the Sean Fitzpatricks of this world, while the ordinary householders whose income has been decimated by the crash can swing in the wind? And is your government going to continue a policy of insolvency apartheid?
Thank you.
There are a set of cases. If you wish to get to me the details of those cases, I'll get a comprehensive and detailed response. I've indicated the measures. I've indicated the measures that have been taken to date, and we believe that they will help the vast majority of people who find themselves in that situation.
Deputy.